11 minutes past 8 a.m. as we kick off this morning. And we know visiting the Palestinian territories for some is extremely difficult, and particularly going through Israel, and one of them being the founding member of the National Freedom Party and also member of parliament, Ahmed Munzoor Shaik Emam. Ahmed Munzoor Shaik Emam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And shukran for having me on the air this morning.
Yes, we know that visiting Palestine is always a challenge, and for some people, it's more of a challenge than others. Particularly those that are high profile, particularly those that are pretty vocal, those that actually speak out against the injustices, the atrocities that are committed against the people of Palestine. Now, you are one of them, and obviously, you were going to be on an official visit to Palestine. Just tell us, the visit, obviously an official visit, so you must have had some sort of invitation to come through to Palestine or to go to Palestine.
Yes, indeed. I've been invited to attend the 75th Nakba conference that was going to take in Ramallah. It's taking place from today. So myself and other members of parliament, and I think there are also some other members from the church that are also expected to attend. And so, in having received this invitation, of course, because I was going to be using a diplomatic passport, myself and Honorable Nyonso from the PAC submitted our applications. First of all, he got a response yesterday afternoon to say he applied too late. In my case, I applied on time. There's been no queries, nothing of that nature. All I was doing is going to attend the conference. Of course, I had to give them a full list of my itinerary on every road that I was going to be using, where I was going to be staying, when I was going to visit, who was I going to visit, and all that kind of stuff. But I provided them with all that. Only to hear yesterday afternoon, I was supposed to fly out last night, and I was informed by DECO that I have been denied a visa. And more importantly, Honorable Nyonso was around the embassy, treated very badly. Actually, they asked him to leave the embassy and wait for them in the parking lot, even for the application that he made. And so they did treat him very, very badly, to be honest. But they told him that even if we gave you a diplomatic passport, the Minister of Interior, when you arrive in Tel Aviv, can turn you back and refuse you entry. That is what they told him.
Wow. In fact, obviously, if you are being treated in our very own country, or if
Yeah.
you was being treated like this, outside at the embassy, told being to wait in the parking lot, and we are talking about diplomats here. We're not talking about other men in the street. And really, this is now the difficulty that we see that people experience in going to Palestine. In your instance, in your mind, any reason as to why you've been turned down?
Well, first of all, I'm not surprised. I was concerned whether they will allow me entry. And I think it's more importantly because I've been very vocal about the Palestinian cause, and rightfully so. And I think it is all emanated from the fact that for the first time, I think, in the world, somebody had taken a stance against the Israelis, which with all the support and the money they provide and pump into South Africa, they did not expect us to pass. And that was the motion to downgrade the South African embassy in Israel to a liaison office. That was the first thing. And then, of course, subsequent to that, we've now achieved the issue of Palestinians visa-free entry into South Africa. We've also asked for government to deal with the financial flows, which are unaccounted for, no measures or mechanisms in place to monitor how much goes out from South Africa to Israel. And I'm not sure whether this started during the days of apartheid or whether initially when the new democratic South Africa came into existence. So we are trying to establish them. We've also raised concerns about the fact that South Africans are going to Israel and training in their military there. So they have dual citizenship as well, which we think is a threat to South Africa. So all these things are receiving attention at the moment. Some of them have been attended to, and the fact that our embassy has been downgraded. And I think it was a slap in the face, but all we were doing is putting pressure on them to recognize the rights of the Palestinian people. And my view is that given the fact they were expected to be about 50 leaders from different countries and organizations, they perhaps feel, this is an opportunity for us to come together to garner support, to discuss and find ways and means of putting pressure on the Israeli authorities. And perhaps they felt that, no, I'm a risk to them. And for that reason, they decided to turn me down. But can you imagine, you're going on a diplomatic passport as a member of parliament, as part of your responsibility, part of the work that you do, and you are denied. But yet Israelis coming into South Africa have a free for all. There's no visa requirements, come and go as and when you want. Imagine a diplomatic visa, and you are rejected with no reasons given whatsoever. I'm told that they don't have to give any reasons. And I was then told late last night that I must make arrangements to fetch my passports from the embassy. But you are correct, my brother, in your observation. In the very own country of ours, a member of parliament, a diplomat, is treated like the way Honorable Nyonso from the Pan-African Congress has been treated. Is unacceptable. He went there, he made an appointment to go and submit his documents. They said, no, we don't have somebody who didn't tell us anything about him. But you can't wait in here. No, you must go out. You must go and wait in the parking. So they went into the parking lot, got his document from the parking lot, made him pull it out in the parking lot, go and get his photograph, go back to the parking lot to go and fetch it from him. That is how they treated him. And yet they
Well,
told him, if you get it, it doesn't mean you guaranteed entry.
obviously, this high-handed attitude and the arrogance that we see on the part of Israel, the embassy, and also the authorities as well, clearly not acceptable. But again, where does this leave us? Where does this leave DIRCO? Where does this leave our Department of International Relations? I know you mentioned the whole issue surrounding the Palestinian visas, and I know you brought this thing up over and over again. Israel is free hand in and out of this country, unchecked, and and not even being held accountable. You mentioned the number of instances, military training in Israel, all of that. But our DIRCO, now clearly, the embassy is here in South Africa for diplomats to be treated in this manner. Are you going to take this issue up with DIRCO?
Certainly, I can tell you, if anything, it would certainly not deter us, and particularly myself, on the Palestinian cause and fighting for the rights of the Palestinian people and anybody's rights that violated anywhere in the world. That's the first thing. Certainly, we are going to take them, but the minister is currently in Russia at a conference there. So I am this morning escalating it to her. I have been in touch with the deputy minister yesterday. We've had some engagements and discussions on it, and he's very unhappy about what is happening. But he said to me, it's the norm. The Israelis conduct themselves in this manner time and time again. And he's also of the opinion that, yes, indeed, it's time that we treated the Israelis the way they treat South Africans. You cannot allow them to have a free-for-all in South Africa and the way they treat our South Africans. I've spoken to some of the staff at DECOM, and I can tell you now, they said they don't ever want to go back there. That's how badly they were treated when they did go there. So, yes, I think the Israelis believe they're above the law. They can do as and what they want, even on South African soil. And they're getting away with it for far too long. So, yes, indeed, I think, and that is why I think the influence that they have in the country, particularly the financial influence and businesses and things of that nature, that gave them an impression that we will not be able to do much against them. And I think it came to their surprise that we were even able to downgrade them and take the necessary action, and that we are pursuing other measures against them. And I can tell you another thing. Right now, you'll find there are political parties that have gone to Israel that are there right now as we speak. It simply means there's an election coming. They will attempt to pump a lot of money into this country for the purposes of supporting political parties that support their unlawful conduct, okay, in order to try and unseat other political parties. So yes, a whole lot can happen, and that is why, a couple of years ago, many political parties have gone there. They've received funding. They continue receiving funding. That is why they did not support the motion in any event. So yes, there's a lot at play here, and of course, it's all about money. And so some of them have fallen into the trap because of money. They've lost the ethics, the values, and the morals, and they forget about the human rights. But let us not forget that if money and the assistance that they're getting from the Israeli government is what makes them conduct themselves the way, can you imagine these political parties coming together and having an influence in South Africa by being in power and in control? What would actually happen here in the long term? Are we going to go back to the days of apartheid? Are we going to go back to the days of the colonizers? Is that what it simply means? Because if they can't see the human rights violation of the Palestinian people, then what do they see?
Exactly, and you're talking about other political parties, and I know a lot has been said recently about one of the parties, the Patriotic Alliance, who are there, and even to the extent that they will be meeting people at the highest level. They will be meeting people like the President Isaac Herzog as well. So, and we've seen the type of treatment that they've been given. Treated like royalty, and obviously this is just one example of the selective nature and what suits the Israeli agenda in South Africa, and this is the reason why we see that type of treatment that is meted out to political parties like the Patriotic Alliance and people like yourself being refused.
Yes, indeed. I mean, the Israelis will not stop at that. Remember, they all work together with the US. They work on the divide and rule policy. Okay, and that is what they're going to do in South Africa. And I can tell you, leading to the elections, you're going to get a lot more of that. They're going to pump in a lot of money into the country to try and unseat those political parties that supported this motion and things of that nature. They would want to do everything to overturn the decisions that were actually taken and the other measures that are being put in place at the moment. There's no doubt about it. And of course, political parties, that is why I go back to what one day Minister Godan said to me. He said, Sheikh Imam, South Africa has a lot of politicians, but it only has a handful of statesmen and stateswomen. And I think that's the difference between our public representatives. So you have very few statesmen and stateswomen. So political parties, they, uh, 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 you know, uh, mislead. I think they've mastered the art of telling people what they want to hear. Some political parties make it look like it's a Muslim Christian problem, a religious problem. In the meantime, it's nothing to do with that. Other I think that if anything, politicians don't have to graduate and go to a university to graduate when it comes to convincing people to on what they want you to believe and what they want you to do. And this is the problem that we are facing. There is the twofold problem with what is happening in Palestine, in my understanding. One is that the Israelis, the support that they get from the United States of America and some of the Western countries. That's the first problem. And the second problem, they're using the same policies that they used when they colonized us. They used religion to divide us. But I think what is happening is more and more people are now being educated about exactly what the problem is in Palestine. And that is why you see so many leaders from different religious groupings are coming together. And here it is, you can see that they're also going to Palestine for this conference. And they've been very vocal in supporting the Palestinian cause. But at the same time, it means that Israel will not step back and just sit and do nothing about it. They will want to cause the division in the country, the divide and rule policy they'll want to implement, and they will use financial resources to be able to do that. And we know that many political parties are receiving a lot of financial assistance from Israel, and that is why they are doing it. So I think we need to be mindful of that, even when we're going towards the election, because they'll want to overturn all the gains that we have made in trying to bring Israel to account for the atrocities that they are committing. And I think another thing that we're going to have to pursue now is not just, and I know that there's been some criminal charges laid a while ago. We need to intensify that. We need to work on that. But more importantly, all those that have trained in the Israeli military that may have been part of committing atrocities against the Palestinian people need to also be charged in South Africa. And we also need to treat the Israelis with the contempt that they deserve.
Yes, just with the Palestinian Authority in South Africa, how have they responded to this refusal or this denial of a visa to yourself?
Well, they were very disappointed because they were expecting me. They've had a program. I was on the speakers list, and a whole lot was going to happen. I had meetings set up with the president, with the prime minister, with the foreign minister of Palestine, the chairperson of the council, and there was a whole lot of meetings and things set up, and tours, to the different areas, and they are obviously very disappointed, and they're going to let me know today. But what I do know is just that the conference that's taking place, that there's going to be another conference, a bigger one, that's going to take place in November. I'm not sure whether it's going to be in Palestine or whether it might be in Amman. But remember that even if you went via Amman, you still got various Israeli checkpoints. Can you imagine? I want to go to Palestine. I'm not interested in Israel whatsoever. Even if they want to give me the king's treatment, I'm not interested in them. I want to go to Palestine. But it's not the Palestinian people that's giving me a problem. It's the Israelis giving me a problem to go and visit them. So can you see what is going on? Now imagine, my brother, what the Palestinian people are going through on a daily basis if I, as a diplomat, have to go through this.
Exactly. Well, obviously, we will be for watching the space. We definitely will be following developments, and I'm sure from time to time you will keep us updated. You know what materializes, and I'm actually very, very interested in how DERCO is going to respond to obviously the matters that you have taken up, because you're not the first member of parliament, you're not the first diplomat that has been refused entry
Mm.
into Israel, and they're going to do it over and over again. But at some point in time, Turco needs to take a position, they need to take a stance, and they need to make a statement.
Indeed, I think so. I think the time is right now for them to take a stance. Maybe just downgrading is not enough. Maybe we need to shut it down completely. The only difficulty you got, if people want to visit Palestine, then they're going to have a bit of a problem because Palestinian land is under the control of the Israelis, and that's what makes it very difficult. But again, it's a matter for discussion. But I agree with you wholeheartedly that I think DECO needs to do a lot more and put a lot more pressure. My understanding is even if the minister, Naledi Pandor, wants to go tomorrow, she might have a problem. They might not even give her a visa to go there. So I won't be surprised if they reject a visa for her as well. But I want to say this, and I'll say it again. It's not going to deter. If anything, I can tell you now, more effort is going to be put in. We're going to intensify, in Parliament, particularly the Palestinian cause, and make sure that we hold Israel to account. And a lot more measures need to be put in place if you want to put enough pressure on Israel to come to the negotiating table.
Well, Ahmed Munzoor Shaik Emam, Jazakallah khairan so much for that, and as always, for your time with us right here on Assalam Media. We wish you well, my brother. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Founding member of the National Freedom Party and member of Parliament, Ahmed Munzoor Shaik Emam, with us refusal by the Israeli authorities on an official visit to Palestine, invited by the Palestinian authorities. And again, one sees Israel, we see the arrogance actually playing out, and also this whole treatment of diplomats. So you can imagine how ordinary people are actually treated, where even at the highest level of government, where you have diplomats that are being treated in a parking lot. Wait in a parking lot. We will come and fetch your documents in a parking lot. And this is what they've done to the PAC. So a lot of work that actually lies ahead. But again, a lot depends on our government. A lot depends on our own Department of International Relations as well, DERCO. And something needs to be done. The time is just headed 8:30. We come back. We'll be joined by Ismail Muhammad, facilitator and representative of the Amlazi Islamic Center. We're talking about a report back on the mass conversion that had taken place at the Corinthian church.